Good morning, I'm Joe Varka here with your morning weather update. Just wanted to talk about the current weather and long range. This morning we had a cold front that's moving through the area. It did produce some showers. Some were briefly heavy in the city. Wasn't much of a big deal. As you can see, it's moving out now. Let's take a look at the visible satellite now. As you can see here, here's the cold front. It's back around Harrisburg right now. Refresh this for the latest image. Yeah, it's back around Harrisburg right now. But look behind it. The clearing's coming out. The current temperature is only 58 degrees. Probably will reach 60 degrees by noon as we slowly get brighter. But though this afternoon is going to be drier, though this afternoon is going to start out brighter, probably won't take long for us to get cloudy again. Because it's only going to need to get to about 65 to 66 degrees before we hit the convective temperature in the atmosphere needed for cloud development. And you can see that is definitely happening here in northeast Pennsylvania, back towards State College, and further back towards Lake Erie. That is happening. So, we might struggle to get to 70 degrees today. That's not a good thing. That's another reversal departure day on this month. I mean, so far we're about 5 to 6 degrees below average despite having two 90 degree days last week. I mean, this is a rather unusual and impressive cool September. This is even cooler than we started out the past several winters where we had early season snow in late October and November. So this is definitely something we're going to have to keep an eye on. And let's go take a look at the models real quickly. We'll start off with the NAM model. We'll briefly look at it for current weather. Let's do it this way. Okay, and look at it here. Here we go. There's this morning's weather. Didn't really show the showers too well. It showed them, but not as strong as they were. Then high pressure moves in for tomorrow. Tonight's going to be a particularly cool night. We'll probably get down into the 40s in the city. Up in New England, they have frost and freeze advisories, where they could get to around freezing. And even the Poconos, we could see upper 30s tonight. We'll continue on through to this weekend, where our next shot of cool air is going to come from this developing low pressure up here in Canada. That's going to move east. There's going to be a cold front with that. And with that cold front, it is going to come through to about western Pennsylvania on Saturday. After that, there are some model questions as to how fast it's going to move through the area. Is it going to slow down briefly, or is it going to whiz right through? Let's go over to the GFS model now. And you'll see that on the GFS model, it does slow down briefly and produces an appreciable amount of rain to the central and western Pennsylvania. See, there's today's system moves through it, handled it slightly better than the NAM. Then high pressure moves in, keeps us dry. We're going to be dry for the rest of the week up until Saturday night. That's definitely the time frame here. So it is going to be a nice week. Your people are going to really enjoy this week. And here we go. Friday night, there's some light showers across central Pennsylvania. Now here comes the cold front. It's getting closer, it's getting closer, closer. And here we are, we're coming into Saturday morning now. And on Saturday morning, it's right here, back around Pittsburgh. It's not moving very fast. Then the precipitation really falls apart, but it does try to redevelop some over our area. It's probably at the most to be a quarter of an inch of rain per this model. Nothing major. But then I want to draw your attention to this low out here. We have a little tropical system out here. We have our system moving through. Then we have a high pressure area up here. Strong blocking high pressure. Watch what happens. The cold front that just came through hooks up with the tropical system out there, and watch what happens. Boom. See? Look. Pressures are falling here. We have a storm system developing out there. It's not going to affect our weather precipitation-wise. It is going to help to drain this next area of high pressure in, and also help drain some cooler Canadian air down from way up north in Canada. I mean, look at the system up there. Up there at the Canadian Maritimes, they're just getting waffled with heavy rain and wind. And look what's happening up here in New England. Very cold air mass for this time of year is coming down. They're at or below 32 degrees anywhere within this blue area. So we continue. The model, look at this. More cool weather. Now it tries to get to near average, and with more cool spikes. Let's go back. Here's another one right here for late next week. I mean, it just continues. There comes a ridge, tries to form over us. But within that, I mean, it's not really impressive warm air. Nothing like what we saw last week. We may not see that again, to be honest with you. Now, as you noticed, as we're going along there was some tropical activity. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's go over to the European model now. This is the famous model that has become famous after Hurricane Sandy. A lot of people know it from Hurricane Sandy because it got it correct. Ever since then, it's been hit or miss with this model. I mean, during the summer times, it had some periods where it did absolutely god awful on precipitation. It had other times where it was right. So most of the models overall had a horrible summer forecasting. Upgrades have been put into the models. Yeah, they didn't do much because, as you noticed, as you followed my statuses, there were some days the models were just completely off. They were supposed to be maybe a couple of showers. Turned out to be flash flood days. Luckily, we're beyond the peak of the convective season. Okay, here we are for the current weather. Let's advance. You can see the cold air comes in for tonight and continues, and then we have a real nice rest of the week. Now we're at Wednesday. Okay, keep going through to the weekend. Okay, now we're coming to Friday. Here's the system developed. Here's the cold front. Watch what happens here. We're at early morning Friday. Compared to the other model that I showed you, the global forecasting system, look how much faster it's moving. You can see Friday night we're at western Pennsylvania just like the GFS, but now watch what happens. It does not slow down. It just continues to move right through the area. It comes right through our area, comes through just a few light showers. I'm going to go with a compromise of the GFS and the Euro this time. The Canadian is another model that we look at, and it really slows it down over here. It actually puts out an area of heavy rain. Nah, I'm not agreeing with that. I think it is going to move through the area at a steady pace. It may briefly slow down over us, but for the most part, I think we're just looking at a period of showers or a period of rain. It's only going to be about 2 to 3 hours long on Saturday evening. After this, on the European model, it's not as bullish on trying to warm us up as it is on the GFS. We're actually below average probably here through most of the run on the European model. In fact, we have an upper level system here that's developing in the upper Midwest. Earlier runs tried to indicate it would phase with this system coming out of the Gulf, which would be the next tropical action. And this run, which is the 0Z run, does not show that anymore. If it went out further, yeah, it would show it. You'd have to go out to about 300 hours. Here we are at hour 240, which is where it did show it for many runs. Now it doesn't. It pushed it back, which means it's not going to happen. However, if we go forward in time, let's take a look at the NAO, which is the North Atlantic Oscillation. As you can see, we've been back and forth between positive and negative through most of the summer. More so positive than negative. The last month has been positive. But look here, it is forecasted to tank to possibly the -3. These are some pretty significant numbers, which means in time we are going to have a blocking pattern setting up. And I do believe this is going to be a prolonged blocking pattern, which could set us up for some trouble down the line in early October. Early October, the Gulf of Mexico is still going to be active. Let's take a look at the Gulf of Mexico. There's the current system in grid that is causing tremendous rainfall in Mexico. I mean, they just had 20 to 25 inches of rain from another system further west. Now they're getting another 20 to 25 inches from Ingrid. They're having serious flooding, even worse than the flooding that's going on in Colorado, which has been devastating in Colorado. A real horrible situation. But let's look down here. Down in the Caribbean, we do have some systems going on. We have a lot of activity. We have one system that's not going to form in Florida. We have another one down here on the southern end of this map. That could potentially be trouble in the Gulf of Mexico this weekend. The European model, as we were seeing for last week, does not develop the system as well. As you can see, it keeps it here in central Gulf of Mexico. It's weaker in intensity. If we go back to the GFS model, it does develop the system more so than the European model. And it actually will be a tropical threat for Mexico once again, perhaps southern Texas this go around. So let's take a look here. There it is. Perhaps it could get up to southern Texas if you took a European GFS compromise. I have not looked into the tropical models. I'm going to do that later today. They're not really worthwhile looking at this time because, again, they have been horrible this past summer. The HWRF model was just got an upgrade. Millions of dollars were put into it, and millions of data per second can be spitted out by this model. And you know what? It's done nothing. If I had $1 for every time it showed a tropical system hitting the U.S. or even a hurricane hitting New Orleans, I'd be doing pretty darn well. So yeah, let's continue looking at things here. Let's move on to the AO, which also is a good indicator as what temperatures are going to do. And look at this, it's going to be negative here as well. So it's a strong indicator that we're going to have some cold temperatures. Let's continue on again to the PNA, Pacific Oscillation, and look at here. This is going to be going positive at this time. And we can continue on to look at the MJO. Let's go to the MJO. Okay, that's, can't get that. Okay, here we go. Here comes the MJO. And look, the MJO is forecasted to go to negative territory into, well, not negative territory. MJO doesn't go negative. It's going to go 5 to 6. But in time, I do think we are going to go to 7 to 8, which is a favorable area for storm systems in the east. It's a favorable area for cooler than normal temperatures. So, with that said, the verdict here, I'm thinking we're going to end the month cooler than normal versus warmer than normal, which I originally thought. We'll probably end the month about -2 to -3 departures on the temperature. And we'll probably also have to keep our eyes on tropical activity going into early October. If the blocking pattern is present, we will see these troughs continuing to come down, and they could potentially be in line for a phase with one of these tropical systems that will come out of the Gulf. And if that happens, we will probably see another up the coast track. It won't be anything like Sandy, but you never know. It's hard to say. I mean, Sandy just came 2 weeks in advance. We had 2 weeks in advance notice of Sandy. Prior to that, we had no idea that that was even going to be in the playing cards for that year. We also have to keep in mind, about 2-3 years ago, when we had a negative pattern like this setting up, we had a lot of nor'easters in October and November and even into December. Then we end up having a snowy winter. I'm not saying it's going to be a very snowy winter. I don't like to make predictions for the winter anymore because they tend to not work out. I see a lot of people do so, and the winter ends up being completely different than what was to be expected. So, while September has been a boring month weather-wise, get ready. October is going to be heating up. October is going to be active. There's going to probably be a lot of systems to talk about. And until then, we'll just enjoy the weather we're having now because it's going to be a really nice week ahead. Thanks for watching. We'll have another update later in the week on this potential active weather coming for October. Enjoy the rest of the day.